Very good morning to all of you, fellow Buddhists, ladies and gentlemen. Today's talk is on good words. Now, with the coming of the Chinese New Year, it reminds me when I was a young boy, my mother always tells me, during Chinese New Year time, don't speak bad words, don't use vulgar speech, that sort of thing. And it's very appropriate, because I think speech is something which we all should try to control, should develop and try not to say unnecessary things. And as you know, every Buddhist is supposed to observe the precept on the fourth precept, which is not to tell lies. So therefore, we are very closely associated with speech. And the Buddha is very emphatic about this aspect. Now, the sutta I'm going to talk today is something rather new. Actually, I didn't see this sutra before, but I saw it rather recently, so I can't tell you exactly what he said. So I have to refer to these notes which I brought. So the Buddha actually spoke to his monks on a certain occasion at Jetta Grove near Savatthi in India. Now these words were spoken to the monks, but they also apply to all of us. He says, speech which has 4 characteristics is speech well spoken, blameless, and not censured by the wise. Namely, the 4 conditions are namely, the speech of a monk who speaks only what is wholesome and not what is unwholesome. Now this is the first condition, first characteristic. Then he says, who speaks only what is worthy and not what is unworthy. That's the second condition. The third condition is who speaks only what is pleasant and not what is unpleasant. And the fourth one, he says, who speaks only what is truthful and not what is untruthful. Speech characterized by these 4 factors is well spoken and not ill spoken, blameless and not censured by the wise. He continued, wholesome speech, the saints say, is foremost. It's the most important, in other words. Then he says, one should speak what is worthy and not what is unworthy. This is the second. One should speak what is pleasant and not what is unpleasant. This is the third. One should speak what is truthful and not what is false. This is the fourth. So it's a very short sutta. And I think I would like to emphasize that in this sutta, the Buddha emphasized on the positive effects, on the positive actions to be done as a Buddhist, as a monk. That is, we should speak with these 4 characteristics in view all the time. First is, I think in order, the first one is worthy. Wholesome speech, wholesome. Now I'd like to talk a little about what wholesome speech is. Now when you say something that's wholesome, it means that you are saying something which is good, which is not harmful, which makes people feel very happy. Wholesome speech. Now, unwholesome speech refers to talking bad about people, slandering people, saying things which may or may not be correct, and making people unhappy. So these are very important and applies to every one of us in our daily lives. And this is something which every Buddhist must try to perfect, must try to develop. And this thing, if you develop it properly, will give almost immediate results. So, wholesome speech is very, very important. Now you find in our daily lives, a lot of people say things which they regret very, very quickly. Immediately they regret. They say, oh, I'm sorry having said that. This is something which we must try to avoid. Because once you say something out, you cannot take it back. It has been spoken. People have heard it. And if you said something which is unwholesome, you have made people unhappy by your saying that. So therefore, why should we, as good human beings, want to cause suffering to others? This is the main point. And the Buddha always teaches us the good aspects, why we should do certain things and why we should not do other things. And this is very positive. He says, say something which is wholesome, which is good, which will make people happy. Isn't it nice? Now let's think. We have a lot of friends, colleagues, relatives. If we say something, make them happy, they smile at you. And they always feel you're a good person. And therefore the immediate results can be seen. As soon as you see the wholesome speech, people already smile at you. You get the results immediately. So it's something worth trying, worth doing. You get the immediate results. And not only that, your good wholesome speech will be remembered by people, and they will always think of you as a person who speaks good, speaks wholesome things, and therefore you will be always respected, welcome. And if you are in a group or something, they will say, oh, please come join us, because they know you can say something wholesome, make them happy. And wholesome speech can be developed if we will only try. We have to try a little, because generally in our daily life, if we are in a very sort of difficult situation, then we must practice how to speak wholesome speech. Now, the Buddha also mentioned elsewhere that if you cannot speak something that is good, that is wholesome, hold your tongue, don't speak, say nothing. And he says, silence is golden. And that's the Buddha's advice. If you cannot contribute something wholesome, something good, something beneficial, don't say anything, keep quiet. Don't criticize, don't comment unnecessarily. Those are the negative aspects which I'll come to later. And you find that in Buddhism, quite a lot of people seem to remember the negative aspects rather than the positive. That is, they say, don't say something evil. It hurts people. That is the approach quite a lot of Buddhists adopt. But I think we should also remember the good and direct way of saying things. Say good things, and that will make people happy. So that is wholesome. Now the second one, according to Buddha, is we should try to speak something which is worthy. Now the word worthy may be a bit difficult to interpret. Now worthy means something which is of benefit to people, something which is worthwhile listening to. Understand? Now, if you talk nonsense, actually, then it's not worthwhile listening, right? You say, wasting my time, talking nonsense, right? So anything that is beneficial to us, anything which is going to help us in our life, in any situation, that is worthy speech. And to name you the most worthy speech, the Buddha's teachings, the Buddha's words are worthy because it represents something which is the truth, which is unshakable, which will benefit us. And you're all listening to something which is worthy, right? I hope you will value this. Find that this talk is worthy, it's worth listening to, and that you go back and say, I have learned a little of what Mr. Pham mentioned this morning, or something like that. Then it is worthy speech. Something worth listening to. Something worth understanding. And therefore, worthy speech is very important. So here again, as I said, if you have nothing worthy to contribute, don't say anything. Don't talk nonsense. Or don't say something which is doubtful. Don't say something which is wrong. Or something which is, unpleasant to listen. Don't do that. So therefore, worthy speech is very important. And it is one of the main characteristics of good speech. Now the third one is pleasant speech. Or you all know what pleasant, unpleasant are. That doesn't need much explanation. But nevertheless, you find that in this world there are lots of people who do speak a lot of unpleasant things, and hurt a lot of people. Now I'll give you a few examples in practical daily life. Now quite often you meet people who are rather nasty, who do something wrong, and you may feel a bit irritated because of his behavior, right? Now under those conditions, please control yourself and don't lose your control by getting angry and say all sorts of foul words. Don't say things like, you stupid idiot. I mean, people, when they're angry, they say that, I mean, this is rather unpleasant speech, you see. Now, that man might have made a mistake. Now, you call him a stupid idiot. I mean, come on, he may have made a mistake, but in other respects, he may be a very decent person. He may be very intelligent. So don't just override everything and condemn the person. It is not fair. You tell him very nicely, in a pleasant way, and not in front of everyone to embarrass him. And these are things which we as good Buddhists must try to remember. Don't in front of all your colleagues and all start advising him, oh, you are rather bad, you shouldn't have done this, you should have done the other way. I told you so many times and so on. Don't do it there. Tell him, please come to my room or go in a corner and say, look, I have told you many times, this is wrong. You shouldn't do it this way. You still did it. Please, don't do it again. Tell it nicely. Do it pleasantly. And don't lose your temper in scolding a person. This happens a lot. If you see your friends or you talk with your friends, they will always say, oh, I never lose my temper. They will say that, in front of everyone. But this is some weakness in us which, unfortunately, due to our ignorance, we cannot see our own faults. And this is the Buddha's teachings. So don't think this advice the Buddha gave you doesn't apply because I'm a good-tempered fellow, you see. Everybody thinks he's a good-tempered person. There's nobody who will say, hey, I'm bad-tempered. I admit when I was younger, I was very bad-tempered. But I have tried to develop, try to control my temper. And today I think I'm slightly better, although if I'm really tested, I do not know whether I can still keep it. Now this is a very important aspect I want you to remember. Most of us may say, well, I've been working for 10 years in my office and never lost my temper once. Very good. You may be right. You may be right, You may think you're good tempered. But the environment in that office may be such that the people respect you. They're very nice to you. There's no reason for you to lose your temper. So in other words, you are fortunate in that you work in a good environment. You are not really tested. But when you are subject to a real test, when a really nasty man comes to you and talks all sorts of nonsense, that's the time you do not know what will happen. You might blow up, you might bang the table, you might even kill him. See, so therefore, don't think and don't be too confident that you have overcome all your, bad temper and things like that. So when you listen to this talk, please go back and analyze yourself. Have I done this? Am I always giving good, pleasant speech? Do I always speak pleasantly? Question yourself thoroughly. Tear yourself to pieces and find out. And then only can you really understand. And if you still can't find it, go to your good friends and ask, tell me honestly, am I bad-tempered? Do I lose my temper always? And listen to him and say, tell me honestly, don't be afraid. And be honest about it. Because quite a lot of people, dare not tell you, oh, you are not good-tempered, you're bad-tempered, Because they're afraid you might hit him, you see. See, this is the truth. And a lot of people don't like to be told what they really are. Okay? And if you tell them, they will get angry and don't even talk to you. And this is nature. This is the kind of situation in daily life. So therefore, try to analyze, try and think. Because as I said, this is something which we must apply every time, all the time. Don't say, now I can talk anything I like. Don't think that way. Buddha says we must be always mindful. And mindful of speech is a very important aspect. So therefore, try to remember these points. The next one is, one must be truthful. Now, when you talk about truthfulness, this, as you know, is in the fourth precept, which the Buddha told us to avoid telling of lies. And if you tell lies, you are not truthful. So the precepts are the negative aspect, meaning don't do this, don't do that. Cut off all evil in you. That is the training under the precepts. But this one is the other aspect. It says, these are good things which you must do. And that is, be truthful. Tell things honestly. Don't tell lies. And if you are truthful, you will find that you will have a lot of trustworthy friends, and people will respect and trust you in your daily life. And this is very important. And remember this, the Buddha, in his development towards enlightenment, in his development to sort of complete the 10 perfections, one of the most important he emphasized was truthfulness. He had never told a lie. This is a very important aspect. And if you take the Buddha as an example, then let us also try to develop this truthfulness. Now I know it is difficult, and I know that all of you will think Sometimes we are under a certain situation where if we tell the truth, somebody will have to suffer because we are telling the truth. This is very true, you see. But the Buddha, during his actually development, he actually told no lies in spite of everything. Even at the risk of his own life, he told the truth. How many of us can do that? So it's not easy to tell the truth. Although, if I ask you, most of you say, I seldom lie, I always tell the truth. But you tell the truth in normal circumstances. But under very crucial testing, you probably will not tell the truth. Because your friend's welfare or your friend's livelihood might be affected if you tell the truth. So therefore, telling the truth is not so easy as it appears. I think all of you know that. But this is a very important teaching, to be truthful. And I must admit that throughout my life, I have tried to be very truthful. And I have on few occasions been so truthful that a lot of people have scolded me for being too truthful and causing some embarrassment to certain people. So I used to think, whether it's worthwhile being so honest or not, being so truthful or not. But if you really want to develop yourself spiritually and attain final enlightenment, then truthfulness is absolutely necessary. Okay? So therefore, I don't want to talk too much about it. I prefer to talk little and then have some discussions so that we can then understand what problems you have, and we can try amongst all of us to solve these problems, so that you can apply them. Now, after the Buddha had spoken these two sentences, one of the reverences by the name of Wangisa, he stood up and asked permission to say a few words. You see? And what he said was, not very important really, he backed up the Buddha's teachings, and he agreed with all the teachings that the Buddha said on this topic. And he praised the Buddha. He says, we should not cause pain or hurt or suffering to others by saying things which are unwholesome. In other words, he tried to enlarge on the Buddha's first part of wholesome speech. He says, why should we hurt people? Why should we make people sad? Why should we make people unhappy by saying unwholesome things? So therefore, the first one, saying wholesome things, is very, very good. So he tried to agree with the Buddha. And he says, if we say pleasant speech, it will bring gladness and happiness to everyone concerned. He says, this is our duty actually. So why are we here? The Buddha says we are here to perfect ourselves and to help people whenever we can and wherever we can. And this is the main object in our life. So if you are pleasant, speak pleasant things to people, people will all go back happier. And this is very, very good. This is something worthwhile in our life. Then the third, he says, truth, he says, is immortal. If we tell the truth, that truth is immortal. It will be remembered forever and ever. Like the Buddha's teachings, they are the truth. And today we remember them. Now, if he had said something else, we may not be able to remember all his teachings, and we will not be discussing them all the time. So truth is something which is immortal, and truth cannot die. Truth remains. Truth will never die. Then the fourth one, he says, worthy words put an end to suffering. He says, if you say something worthy, people will benefit from it. So instead of suffering, they may overcome their suffering. Like the Buddha's teachings, if you follow them, you understand them, you practice them, you can actually overcome all suffering. You can overcome sickness, old age, and death. And therefore, this is what is worthy speech. So therefore, this monk, Vangisa, sort of praised the Buddha for giving this short sermon. Okay? And therefore, this is about all this sermon concerns. And I do not wish to go very deeply into this subject. As I said, I leave most of the time to questions. And I hope that you people will bring up questions which you may find rather difficult to understand, difficult to apply, or difficult to interpret. So I'll stop here. I hope that you will forgive me for being a bit short. I wish to make it short because I think I don't want to make a long speech out of a short paragraph. So I hope that you will benefit a little from this simple talk about good speech. Yes, before I stop, I better also remind you that in the Eightfold Noble Path, right speech is one of the 8 factors, and therefore it is very relevant. So if you wish to attain Nibbana one day, and you are trying to walk the Eightfold Path, this right speech or good words is something you must practice, and it is very relevant in that aspect also. So thank you for listening. Any questions, please?
So far I was commenting on causing embarrassment if you're being too honest or truthful. And I would agree with him, but I would like to comment on the point that sometimes when it's the truth, and if the truth hurts and doesn't help to improve the situation, I think we shouldn't tell the truth. Just like eating good food. It's good to eat good food every day, but we cannot eat all the good food at the same time. Would you like to comment on that?
Well, I comment on this. I would like to know whether the audience has any contribution to that. Anybody like to say something? I welcome some contribution from the audience too. Yes?
Good morning, brother and sister. I got some, this is my personal view. I said certain time is not good to say out something. Certain, of course, you say the truth is right, but you see the condition. If you just like what the sister said, it can't improve the condition where people only created more trouble because we said, we Chinese, almost everyone tell life. It's almost a daily life business, even you do everything. Also try to do this. So in certain occasion, you just can't. Just like recently, my colleague tell the other friend that something happened in our company, but I know that we can't tell lies to that person, and I tell the truth. Then I get scolded from my colleague. Like, how can you tell the truth? So I think in certain occasion, we better tell later or don't tell anything. That's all. Thanks.
I think America says the 4th principle. The 4th principle was stated, I think, as a general guidelines in our speech. It's not specific occasions. I think I remember in Karuna Sutta, Lord Buddha has said that whatever you try to do, whatever I say, you have to question what I say is practical in life, what is beneficial to people. So we have to use the overriding statement made by Buddha. When the Buddha says these 4 principles, it does not qualify the situations. The situation is very important. But the situation will be determined by the principle that we should not harm people, we should not do something that is bad to people, at the expense of people. That is overriding statement. So bearing this in mind, with so many conflicts and doubts we have faced, the situation where we analyze reasonably, according to Buddha, Lord Buddha, we analyze the whole situation critically before we really stick any one of the 4 principles. And I think the 4 principles, some of them are what we call mutually excluding. In other words, it is not compulsory to have all 4 components together. You have the intermixing. Sometimes certain component is higher level. Sometimes it is lower. For example, truth hurts. Sometimes truth is more important. Then we have to use our reason, use our wisdom to see which one is more important and overriding the other one. I think we should look at that aspect. And there is another angle which Buddha has already implied is the personality. Apart from taking into considerations of situations, we are also taking in terms of people, intellectual development. So what are people where we tell the truth? Sometimes we can't tell the truth to people who are not so wise. So we have to think in terms of people interest. For example, a doctor may not tell you the truth that you have cancer, but it may harm you psychologically. So the people and the situation must be considered, and also may consider that the 4 principles must be very differentiated according to the canon and what we call important. Sometimes certain situations, certain principle is more important. Certain people, certain principle is more important.
Thank you. Anybody else like to comment? If not, I will now go back, and I think the contributions are very good. I must appreciate them. That's why I said I don't want to do all the talking. It's very nice to know that you're interested and you put up arguments for and against. Excellent. Now, what I want to point out, the first point is, I did mention that this sutra was spoken in the presence of monks. And I said it applies to us generally also. Did I not say that? Did I not say that? So this was particularly intended for monks. Now why I say that is because in the case of a monk, he has renounced all worldly conditions, right? He has no business, he has no work, he has no family. So therefore, all your arguments which you brought up, which are very applicable for mundane life, doesn't really apply in this sutra. So in the sutra, when he speaks to the monks, he says, tell the truth. Because a monk is not concerned with his friends, relatives, family, and work. So he has nothing to hide. Okay? So a monk should practice the truth, nothing more, nothing less. I hope that clears the point here. But the second point is, in the case of mundane people like us, which is slightly different, where we have to adapt a little, because you are mundane. You want to live in this mundane world, and therefore that may not agree. I agree, it may not fully apply. And as you said very wisely, we should think and use our common sense, use our intelligence, and say, if I tell the truth, will it harm people? If it is going to harm a lot of people, cause them a lot of unhappiness, then I better not tell the truth. Correct. What you said is correct, perfectly correct. I wanted to come from you people, and this is exactly what we as lay people should know, should think, and should question. Okay? So if you can tell the truth in other matters which doesn't affect anybody, then tell the truth. if, as I said, that truth is going to hurt yourself, hurt a lot of people, and affect a lot of people, then you better either keep quiet, or, as some people put it that way, tell a bit of a white lie, or even say, I don't know. It is just in itself a lie, isn't it? So therefore, you have to do a bit just to, sort of avoid hurting too much of people. And in so doing, you must also remember who you are hurting, that person or whatever it is. Okay? If it is a person who is a thief, a murderer, then telling the truth may be advisable, because after all he has done a lot of cruel things. But why protect him some more? It's up to you to judge. So I'm telling you that's why the Buddha says we human beings are very fortunate, because we can think, we can reason, and it is this thinking, reasoning and understanding that is absolutely necessary in order to practice and live a happy life. So I must thank all you for your contribution towards the subject. Are there any other questions?
I think as far as talking truth is concerned, I think we should try to be as truthful at any time. But there are some awkward situations, you see, where, it's difficult to tell truth. So it depends on how you go about telling the truth. Let's say that somebody has done something wrong and you want to tell. Maybe you should tell it in a very tactful manner, Maybe you try to sort of, as they say a little bit, praise that person a bit on the good points. And then maybe you can tell them what is their weaknesses, that way. You point out to that person that person is at fault. But when you praise somebody, you always boost up his ego. So his ego is boosted up, and then he's not completely, completely let down when you say something bad about that person. Okay, that's all.
Yes, thank you for your contribution. Here I agree with you, but I think this comes under more on this pleasant speech, on the second aspect. It's not so much a truth as, when a chap does something wrong, you tell it pleasantly to him so that he won't get, as you say, hurt, If you tell it bluntly and harshly, he will suddenly feel very embarrassed. Okay? But if he's done something wrong, it's up to you to tell him in a very pleasant way so that he will remember his mistake. You see, because when you scold a person for doing something wrong, one of the major problems is that instead of his realizing his mistake, he is on the antagonistic point. He is fighting back. So he doesn't know. He won't appreciate he's made a mistake at all. Now he's going to fight and say, I will die, I won't admit the mistake. You see, you made him on the defensive. In other words, that man, if you scold him harshly for making a mistake, he will never learn. You see the point. You are telling him is to teach him that he has made a mistake. And the way to go about is to be pleasant. As you say, I say you've done a good job, but you overlook this and that, which is also very important. And you tell it nicely to him. He will then see and say, oh yes, I forgot this. But if you scold him and get angry with him, he will not accept that he's made any mistake. You say, I didn't do a mistake. You didn't tell me, that's why, And he will, use all sorts of excuses to protect himself. He's not going to admit, And this is the point. And this is very important. And this is what a lot of people undergo. In fact, we do a lot of things without realizing the consequences. For instance, we might want to teach our own children. I don't know how many of you got children. I'll give you a good example. Now your good intention is to teach the children. Say school work, they don't know. But when a father teaches a son, or the mother teaches a daughter or son, you find that the approach is wrong. Because we approach it in a way, I'm the father, I know everything, you don't know anything, so I tell you this, you must listen. And this approach is very, very, very wrong, unfortunately. I used to do that, but I found it much too late. So my children are so big now, you see? So I can't practice it again. But the point is, we must put ourselves as a young child when you want to teach it. See? We must be friendly with him. We mustn't use a harsh, fatherly way of talking. And we must be friendly, sort of, Teach him in a way that he appreciates. Then only can he understand. Because if you harshly scold him, oh, you stupid fellow, why? I tell you 10 times, you still don't understand. When you say that, the person involved is already scared of you, he's going to hit me now, 10 times already. He's going to hide, He said, when you tell him something that you should be done like this, he's not paying attention. Is he going to hit me or not? He's thinking, you see. So how can he understand? This is something which we don't see. We look at our point, I'm teaching my children, yet he won't understand. And we scold the children, stupid fellow and all that. But the children are not stupid. You shouldn't take that attitude. That's the Buddha's teachings. And that's why if you analyze things, you see that, we all behave without knowing that we are behaving like that. And we think, I'm a good father, what? I'm teaching him. See? And yet the children don't do well in school and you blame the student and say, he's stupid. But actually, what you teach the children, they can't understand because they're scared of you. See? And this is something we must remember. See? So that whenever we do anything, please think, put yourself in the place of the student or whatever it is. And there's a very interesting example which strikes me, that is the advice given by friends among women. And this is very applicable, especially young women who are not yet married. And the advice is, if you want to learn how to drive a car, please do it now before you get married. Before you get married. Underline that. Once you are married, you're the wife, you ask your husband to teach you driving and you will suffer for it. And you will never learn driving from him. I have known many friends, and this is the truth. And they have come to the extent, they come and tell me, Mr. Pham, instead of my husband teaching me, I got so fed up with him, I scolded him, and I went to driving school. I passed to driving school. I said, why driving school? You know that fellow, I made mistake. He yelled, you want to spoil my car, what, This was $25,000, What is this? I teach you, don't press the gear without the clutch. You press the clutch first and then, what is all this, you see? This is the thing. You see, now the point is, I must tell you, 99.9% of the men do that, And yet, you tell them you're very hot-tempered fellow, you don't know how to teach. You say, what are you talking? You're talking nonsense. I'm very kind. I teach people nicely. Ask their wives. This is true. And this is a fact. And this is the truth. We don't really appreciate. The Buddha says, we do not see the fault in ourselves. We see faults in others. It's very easy for you to see, hey, this fellow, very hot-tempered, always scold, always argue, always come late and so on. But you tell him, are you always hot-tempered? You say, no, I am never hot-tempered. This is the truth. We don't see things. And to know your defects, to know your faults, that is very, very difficult. I must tell you, this is the first thing you must overcome. You must find a way of analyzing and coming to the conclusion how good you are, how bad you are, all your good and bad points. You must be able to analyze them. That is the Buddha's teaching. That's what the Buddha said. See? So if you don't accept the fact that you're hot-tempered, that you use harsh language, that you tell lies, you will never improve. This is a very important point which I now wish to emphasize. You must accept your faults, and then only, knowing that you are some faults, and then only will you try and say, I'm hot-tempered, yes, I must cut down on that. I use harsh speech, Now I must try to control that, cut it down, tone it down, use pleasant speech. It's only like that you can practice Buddhist teachings. Yes. So any other questions? Or comments, anything? If you have no questions, I might like to say a few more words, because I think sometime next week also I'm supposed to give a talk, right? Next week I intend to talk about this, one of the sutras in Sutta Pitaka. Yeah, no, I think the other one, Alavaka Sutta, the questions by Alavaka. I intend to talk next week about Alavaka's questions. I think all of you know about the story about this Alavaka, who is to eat human beings and all that sort of thing. It's a very interesting story. But the story is not the one I'm going to talk about. It's more on the questions that Alavaka brought up, which the Buddha answered. So question from answers to Alavaka's questions given by the Buddha. Now, on this subject of right speech, I would like also to add that in our daily lives, we meet all sorts of people. And especially when we meet people who are very, shall we say, very good at finding faults with people, who always like to criticize, and who are very irritating, and who are very, very good at condemning people, that sort of people. Now, the general way that we should behave when we meet such types of people, which we do all the time, wherever you are, you will always find some relatives who always talk bad about people, criticize, comment, and so on. Now, the attitude to take when you meet such people is to try to tolerate them and not to lose your temper. But if you want to practice patience, tolerance, and understanding, the way to do it, which I found quite useful, is to look at the person and think like this. Say, he is very unfortunate. He is very ignorant. He likes to say and comment on things for which he has not been invited to do so. It's all right if I ask you to say, what do you think of this, and you comment, good or bad, I have to accept. Most people do. But if you are not asked to comment and you always say, this fellow always do wrong, do this, he will always say something like that. Now to do this, as I said, that person has very serious sort of ignorance in him. He is full of ignorance. So we always look at him with pity and say, I pity him. He is full of ignorance. He thinks he's very clever and wants to comment on everything and find fault with everything he encounters. Now this is not the right thing to do. So what we should go next is say, he is doing it all the time. So therefore, he is creating a lot of bad karma in speech, in the form of saying bad things, hurting people. Now for that, he will suffer one day. We know the law of karma. It will hit us. We do bad, we will suffer for it. So he is going to suffer for it one day. So why should I make him suffer some more? Karma will take care of itself. He is doing so much of bad karma. I pity him because the rate of the evil karma will be very severe. He's going to suffer very much one day. So I pity him. So why get angry? Why scold him some more? And I suffer as a result in scolding, and also put more weight on him. I'll think that way. And another thing to do is to think of him as your teacher for patience, tolerance, and understanding, and say, see, he is here to test me, to teach me how to practice patience, tolerance, and understanding. So therefore, I must be grateful to him. Because if everybody is nice to me, I have no chance to practice patience, tolerance, and understanding. So he's a good teacher. So why get angry with him? Because if I get angry with him, he might go away and don't irritate me anymore. So where do I practice my patience, tolerance, and understanding? This is the sort of thing which we can use our mind to change the outlook of things. And in fact, this is one of the ways in which we can find peace and contentment in us. And this is one of the ways the Buddha has taught us to practice patience, tolerance, and understanding. And also, when you meet unfortunate and irritating circumstances, treat it as a lesson, as a test. Treat it as one of those good lessons where we learn something. Don't always say, I'm very unlucky. I don't know why. People always criticize me. Everything I do also criticize. Don't take that attitude. That is the wrong attitude. That attitude, you hurt yourself. See? But you take the attitude and say, how lucky I am. I have got a good teacher who tests me, teaches me patience, tolerance, understanding. If I can tolerate him, I can tolerate anybody in this whole universe. Isn't it good? Am I not developing my good qualities in so doing? Think that way, positively, and you can benefit that way. And you will be able, with that sort of reasoning, to find contentment and peace in your life. That is how, as Buddhists, we should try to develop. That's how we should analyze things. That's how we should not simply look and say, I'm unfortunate, I get this, I get that trouble. You are being tested. And this is a real test. And tell yourself, you are lucky. There are people to test you, to teach you how to overcome your problems, your difficulties, and your defilements. Look at it in this manner. And this is how I think Buddhists should try to reason out, use their own mind, and with that mindfulness, with that understanding, you can find peace in yourself, contentment. And that is why the Buddha said, he gave a very important speech, saying, in this one fathom body, there is the world. That means everything is there. You can find sorrow, you can find happiness, you can find hell, you can find heaven in this body. How do you look at it? This is one example. I'm just giving you one simple example of how you can find happiness instead of sorrow in yourself without having to go for external aid. In other words, don't say, my friend can help me. He always embarrasses me, my friend will scold him. Okay? That is not the answer. So the answer is in yourself. So try to depend on your own self. Get out of your problems. And these are the things in practice which we should try to develop. And it's only by practicing such things that we can really develop ourselves in any aspect of Buddhism. I think that's about all I want to say, so I think I haven't prepared very much of this speech. In fact, I got the sutra from the organizer here only on Saturday, so I didn't read much of it anyway. So I hope you'll excuse me if I said anything wrong. In speech, we can always say something, I might have unintentionally said, so I hope you'll excuse me if I said something wrong, please.
Is there anything that you'd like to add? Anything that you're not clear? No? So I really would like to thank Uncle Pham for telling us what good speech is all about. In fact, we have been trying to find out what really good speech are. Sometimes when we speak, we do not really know what we are talking about. And after that, only we will regret. And sometimes it's too late. So actually, what we have learned today, there are lots, even though the speech is very short, there are lots of food for thought. And in fact, it is very good for us to bring back for the new year and start the new year off with a good speech. So perhaps I would just go through what Uncle Pham has just said, summarize everything. And that is, perhaps when we speak, try to think that it is blameless. Blameless speech, worthy speech, pleasant, something truthful, not false, wholesome speech. So bear this in mind, keep this in mind, bring it back, contemplate on it, and each time when we want to speak, think about it, whether it is blameless, is worthy, pleasant, truthful, or wholesome. So I think it is very good, even though the speech is very short, but there are a lot of food for thought, something for us to bring back and start the new year with something good. And it is good harmonious speech is very useful in everywhere, in organizations, with friends, in the family, and even in every other place when we go. Right speech is very important. I think we should start, and every one of us should start practicing. And before we go off, after listening to good speech and good Dharma talks, we would like to share this with the departed and also the devas, the beings around us. So I would like you to kindly, please close your eyes for a moment and contemplate on the good things that you have done, what you have heard today, and share this with the departed as well as the devas and the beings all around, just for a few minutes. Number 1, Buddhism for Beginners course. The purpose is to impart basic Buddhism to newcomers in a systematic order. The first part 1, will be starting on the 27th to the 28th. It's on Saturday, 2:30. You come and register, and then after that, you stretch on over the weekend until Sunday, 5 p.m. We are using the correspondence course, lesson 1 to lesson 6 for the first part. And then the second part will be on the 12th to the 13th of March. And also the same, you come and register yourself 2:30 p.m. and you stretch on over the weekend until 5 p.m. And we will be using lesson 7 to lesson 12. So for those new members, or for those who would like to learn Buddhism in a very systematic manner, and you find that you do not really know much about Buddhism, do kindly register, enroll yourself at the counter. You have to get forms to enroll yourself. The Buddhism for Beginners course will be held here in the Wisma Sridharma Hall, and so we'll give you a program after you have paid up $20 for the whole session to make up for the food that we are getting for you and the materials also. Buddhism for intermediate level, practical side. We have already completed the one on doctrinal part last year, and now we are starting the one on practical part, Buddhism for intermediate level, for those who have already participated in the Buddhism for beginners, or for those who have already known something about Buddhism and you'd like to go deeper into the practical aspect, then this will be very suitable for you. Will be the intermediate level will be basing on the book What Buddhists Believe by Venerable Dr. K. Sridharananda. And we'll be starting the first session on the 3rd of March. Time is 7:45 to 9:45 p.m. So for those who are interested, kindly obtain your enrollment forms at the counter. Chinese New Year greetings. As you know, every year we have a group of young men and ladies who go visiting our uncles and aunties from the temple, and we go around singing. And so before we go around singing hymns as well as New Year songs, we have to practice. So if you wish to participate in these New Year greetings, do kindly come for the practice after the Sunday talk. here. And the New Year greeting will be on the 27th of February. That's after Chinese New Year. EDP and Evening of Devotion and Peace. Perhaps some newcomers might not know that we have an Evening of Devotion and Peace in the temple organized by the BMS Youth Section. This Evening of Devotion and Peace is a way to gather all our members together for some chanting, some messages and stanzas from Dhammapada. Evening of Devotion and Peace. So the next one will be 27th of February. Each month we'll try to have one EDP, and it starts at 7:45 at the pagoda. So for those who wish to participate in this, do kindly come to the temple. It's a Saturday, 27th of February. It's the same day as Chinese New Year greetings, but actually we cater for the Buddhism for Beginners course members, participants. And if you feel that you'd like to go for the New Year greetings, do go ahead. But if you feel that you want a night of Evening of Devotion and Peace, then kindly come for the EDP. Orientation program. We have orientation program in the temple, organized by the BLS Youth Section as well. Because we find that sometimes members come to the temple and do not know where they are supposed to go, where they can get information, who the people they have to approach. So this orientation program will be able to guide you, where there are slideshows to show you who the people are, the chairman of the temple, the organizations in the temple, who the reverends are in the temple to approach, and what are the activities that we have in the temple. So after this orientation program, you will find that you will not feel lost. So it is good for new members and for even old members who come to the temple and still feel lost. So do kindly register yourself for the orientation program. It will be on the 28th of February, and time is 12 p.m. here at this Wisma Sridharma Hall. And as usual, if you every week I've been announcing this discipline and neatness in temple. When you come in, you see that the shoes are placed pointing towards the shrine, this hall. So when you go out, you find that the shoes are all pointing outwards, all lined neatly. So actually, we are trying to practice more or less like respect for the holy place, and also we'll try to perform some practice neatness and tidiness in the temple also. So we would like you to cooperate with us. So we hope that next time if you do come to the temple, do kindly place your shoes neatly in order, in pair, pointing outwards. It is, as I feel it, that it is an art of respect for a holy place when you enter a holy place, rather than when you come in and then we find that all our shoes are all over the place, and then after that when we go out we find that our shoes are missing sometimes. So it is a very common practice by the Japanese actually, and we find it very good, so we are trying to perform it also in the temple. So we'd like your cooperation in making this project a success. That is a New Year project. So with this, may I wish all of you well and happy. And on behalf of the temple and the organizations in temple, I would like to wish all of you a very happy Chinese New Year. Thank you very much.